Morning, Crosspoint. Hey, I just wanted you to know I was the one late turning on my mic there. The booth killed it. That was totally on me. Don't blame them. Hey, it is so good to be here. My name is Michael. I'm actually Matt's older, more attractive, more athletic brother. He's not here this morning, otherwise I wouldn't say that. Hey, it is so good to be with you. This is the church I grew up in, so it's good to be home in so many ways. My family actually moved back to Florida about 7 months ago. We moved back here to plant a brand new church in Sarasota, Florida, which we're really excited about. Yeah, you can clap for that. And one of the coolest parts about getting to start this new church has been being right around an hour away from Crosspoint, the church that our family planted when I was in the 8th grade, and all of the ways that we have already gotten to partner together. We've had several work teams come up and spend a lot of time working. One of the things, part of our story, is that we were gifted a building, and it's a huge blessing, but about every square foot of it needs to be remodeled. So we have had quite a few Crosspoint, and those of you that have come up and served have seen the building, and you know that firsthand. It's been a lot of fun working together. Crosspoint also financially supported us up front, was one of some many great churches that gave us some money to get going. And then more recently gave a second gift, which is enough for us to buy all of the equipment for our kids' classrooms. And so we're super thankful. If I can just say selfishly, I'm super thankful because those are the classrooms that my little boys are going to grow up learning about Jesus. And not just my boys, but so many kids from around Sarasota and their families. And I didn't think I was going to get emotional saying this, but as we've just started to build a core team, we've already got a lot of kids. And so your generosity here at Crosspoint is blessing our church. I know it's blessing other church plants in the state of Florida and mission partners around the world. So thank you for being such a generous church. And if I can just encourage you to please keep giving generously because your money is making a huge difference. I want to share just a little bit of an update on our church. We have been spending this year, we'll get ready to actually start services this fall. And so we've been spending this year gathering a core team of people to help us launch the church. Our core team's now over 50 adults to help us get this thing going. But an even more important number is we've already got to celebrate 3 baptisms. And we're super thankful for that. And we have 2 more that we're actually planning right now, trying to pick a date that everyone can be there. And part of this year, what we've been doing is traveling around the state, visiting churches. And if I can just be brutally honest with you, we're like a little sick of it. And those of you that go to church regularly and like this is your church family, you know that like there's just something so good and so right about being with your church family every weekend. And we cannot wait till our church can start having regular weekend services so we can be with our family every weekend. And we're getting sick of hopping around to different churches every weekend, ready to be with our people. But Crosspoint is about as close as it gets for us. This is the church we've attended the most as we've come to spend time with our family on like Father's Day and things like that this year. And so it is really good to be here at Crosspoint, or as my 3-year-old calls it, Uncle Matt's church, which I didn't realize my dad was a little hurt by that he calls it Uncle Matt's church, not Grandpa's church anymore. He really loves Crosspoint. This has nothing to do with the message. He calls Crosspoint the church with the Lightning McQueen toy because the blue room has a Lightning McQueen toy. And so this is Lightning McQueen Church to him. But it is good to be here, good to be home. While we've been traveling around the state, we've gotten to visit all sorts of places. And recently we were at a church near Daytona Beach, and we were looking for some good pizza. And so we ended up at a pizza place downtown by like Riverfront Park, if you're familiar with that area. And we stumbled upon the statue that caught our attention, and we had to go figure out what it was about. I have a picture of it. That's my 3-year-old standing by it. I'm not sure if he was supposed to climb up there on it, but like, he did. So this is Brownie the town dog, and this Riverfront Park is dedicated to Brownie the town dog. Well, let me read you what they wrote about Brownie. Brownie, the town dog of Daytona Beach, was a stray dog who lived downtown Daytona Beach from 1939 until his death in 1954. Get this. He lived in a custom doghouse, had a bank account at the Florida Bank and Trust. And here's the crazy part, craziest out of all that. He dined on steak and ice cream, which is like my dream diet. He had no owner and was loved by the entire city. Brownie was featured in local and national publications and became one of the most written about dogs in U.S. history. So Brownie was this stray, this dog that the entire town decided to be like, this is our dog. We're just adopting this stray dog. We're going to take care of him. He ate steak and ice cream, which is amazing. I don't know what a dog would do with a bank account, but he had a bank account. Brownie had a good life. He was loved. He was cared for. It did not matter that he was a stray, that this city adopted him. And so we're walking around this park. I was like, that's cool. The story of Brownie's kind of cool. And then we saw something odd. You know what we saw a bunch of? We saw a bunch of these signs, and they all said, no dogs allowed. In Brownie's park, no dogs allowed in this park that's dedicated to a stray dog. And so this week I was researching it because I didn't want to give you false information about this park in Daytona that you may never go to. But as I researched it more, there actually is a dog park section. If we had walked all the way to the far end, which we didn't, we walked most of it, but apparently not far enough. There is a dog park at the other end, but get this, you can't just take your dog to this dog park. You have to get a membership to go to this dog park. Have you ever heard of a members-only dog park? How ridiculous is that? This park is dedicated to the stray. It says no dogs now, especially in the really nice areas, no dogs there. And then the dog park, it's members only. You need to apply for a membership. In Brownie's Park, something is so off about that. The thing that they claim to love, that they say, this park is dedicated to Brownie, doesn't seem to match up anymore. And if we're honest, there are far too many churches that can start to look like this. We love the idea of the gospel, but how often do we actually see it in actions? We love the features and beauty of the church, the quality of the music, children's programming. But is there concern for those that are living far from God? And I don't want to be hard on the church because if I'm honest with you, there have been many seasons of my life where this is true for me. I can get so busy working in church world. I can get so busy with the work of the church that I spend little to no time with those that are living far from God. And that's not how Jesus operated. Jesus came and he spent time with sinners and tax collectors. He came to seek and save the lost. He came to seek and save those that were living far from him. He came to bring hope to the hopeless. He came to bring home to those that were lonely. He came to bring purpose for those that were searching for the meaning for their life. And he commissioned us, the church, to go out and do the same, to share the good news, to share the hope that we have found. And when churches and when the people in churches no longer are on that mission, we look a lot like Brownie's dog park. We love the idea of the gospel, but is it how we live our lives? The church might have many members, but when we see reaching the lost as someone else's job, we have fallen off of mission. And while it may be more comfortable to see reaching lost people as someone else's job, it's just not biblical. And so I would love to share with you just some lessons that we have learned. Matt invited me to preach today on just what God has been teaching us in this season. This has just been one of the most fun seasons of ministry for our family. And the best part about it is that we have moved to a new city and we've just tried to see ourselves as missionaries this year and rub shoulders with as many lost people as we can and have intentional conversations and relationships. And God has just taught us so much. And my perspective on this has changed so much in the past 7 months. And it has just been so much fun. There's been so much hope that we've gotten to spread. And I would just love to invite you into some lessons that we are learning personally in all of this, because I'm guessing we're not the only ones that need this reminder. But here's my big idea. Here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to unpack this statement. I believe that we have all been called, equipped, and positioned, all for your one. And we're going to unpack that statement together. And where we have to start is actually at the end of that statement, all for your one. What is your one? What is a one? Well, to unpack that, let's jump to my favorite chapter of the Bible. I often, when I teach, say, this is one of my favorite passages, but this is legit like my favorite chapter of the Bible, Luke 15. I think it is so foundational for our faith, for our ministry, for all of how we follow Jesus. Let's start in verse 1, and we're just going to kind of work our way through this chapter. Verse 1 says this: tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus. I love this translation. It's not just like, oh yeah, some people that were sinful. Like, yeah, we're all sinful. No, it says notorious sinners, like the ones we know about, like notorious B.I.G. sinners, the ones that, the like sinners of sinners. That is who came to sit and listen to Jesus. And this made the Pharisees and teachers of religious law complain that he was associating with such sinful people, not just associating, even eating with them. See, Jesus had a big heart for those that were living far from them. And he didn't just go and teach to them, he even ate with them. And in that time, sharing a meal culturally meant so much more than what it means now. It wasn't just sitting down and having some food. It meant acceptance. It meant a sense of belonging. Who you shared meals with is who you did life with. And so Jesus isn't just saying, oh, I'll let some sinners come in and I'll preach at them for a little while. No, he's inviting them over for dinner. They're sitting around the smoker, like they're spending time together. They are doing life together. That is who was attracted to Jesus and who Jesus chose to spend time with. And so what Jesus does here is he sees that these religious teachers are upset. They're upset that he's spending time with these notorious sinners. And he does a very Jesus thing. He doesn't argue with them and say, all right, let me show you why you're wrong. He just gently offers them 3 stories. He's like, let me tell you some stories. It just becomes story time with Jesus. And these stories so beautifully show us the heart of Jesus and his character and his theology when it comes to the lost. And these stories ought to be mission critical for the church and for our lives today. So let me read the first one to you. It's 4 verses long. So Jesus told them this story. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go to search for the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. When he arrives, he will call together his friends and his neighbors, saying, rejoice with me, because I have found my lost sheep. And then this verse is summing it up for us. It's so important. He says, in the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over the 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. There is more joy for the one sinner who repents and comes home. We're learning about Jesus' theology right here. We're learning about God's character right here, that he cares. There's more joy for that one that comes home than the 99 that remain. Why is that? Well, love does not take comfort in favorable math. When it comes to people, our math changes. Let me illustrate it this way. A couple years ago, my wife and I had the privilege of helping lead a trip to Kenya, the church we were serving at, Westside, and we took 100 people. We actually took 101 people, but the story works better if I just say 100. Is that okay? So we took 100 people to Kenya on this trip. Could you imagine if we came back and we said, hey, wonderful trip. We did all sorts of good work. We got to serve, and we had a 99% success rate getting everyone back home. Pretty great, right? I don't know about you and your job, but I would guess if you had a 99% success rate at your job, you're pretty good at what you do. Like if you're hitting like .99 in baseball, you are the greatest hitter ever to live. Like if you are, I can't think of a non-sports example. If you're a lawyer, I watch a lot of law shows, and you win like 99% of your cases, you're probably a pretty good lawyer. Like if you're a teacher and 99% of your kids pass all of their tests every time, you're a really good teacher. But the math changes when it comes to people, because if we had come back and said, we return 99% of people, if your family member is the one that didn't make it back, they're still somewhere over in Nairobi, Kenya in the slums, you've got some questions. You are not thrilled with that math. You are not thrilled that we had a 99% success rate, because people change the math. Because when you love someone, you don't take comfort in favorable math. And so this is why Jesus eats with sinners, because he's after the one. He's not content with the 99 that are already in the pen safe. And so there's these three stories Jesus told. We just read the first one, and this pattern is going to emerge where something is lost, something is found, and they celebrate. In all three stories, something is lost, something is found, and they throw a party. And the next story, we see this pattern played out again. There's a story of a lost coin. So we had a lost sheep, now we got a lost coin. And this woman has 10 coins. She loses one of them. She flips her house upside down. She does what we do when we lose that tiny little Roku remote in the couch like every single day. Nope, just our family. Turning the cushions upside down, looking underneath. I got some nods there. You know, she is like cleaning, trying to find this one lost coin, and she finally finds it. She invites her friends and neighbors over, and they throw a party. Some scholars think that what it would have cost to throw the party was more than the coin that she found, but the math doesn't matter because love doesn't take comfort in favorable math, and Jesus is showing a disproportionate focus on the one. Jesus has a heart for the one, and a healthy church has a heart for the one. But let me talk about that for a second. We love to say churches should have a heart for the one, but churches are made up of people. The church is a group of people, and a church doesn't have a heart for the one unless the people that make up that church all have a heart for the one. Churches that love God, love people, and share Jesus means that their churches, that people are sharing Jesus, that they have a one in their lives. And so Jesus has one more story to tell. He tells this story. This one, he elaborates a little more. There's more detail. This has got to be one of the best stories ever told. It's of the lost son, or you may have heard it called the prodigal son. It's a story of a dad who has two sons, and the younger son, it's always the younger son, right? If you're not familiar with our family, I'm the older, Matt's the younger, so I love younger brother jokes. The younger son goes to the father and says, "Hey, I know you're not dead yet, but I'd like to go ahead and get my inheritance." And the crazy part is the dad actually gives it to him. And so he takes that inheritance and he goes to essentially Vegas and blows it all on reckless living. The Bible, the word is literally reckless living, so we don't know what he blew his money on, but he went and gambled it away. And the next thing you know, he is living with pigs. His job is to care for these pigs. And he is so hungry, because he's wasted all of his money away, that even the food the pigs are eating looks appetizing. And now, Jesus is telling the story to a Jewish audience, and there is probably nothing more dishonorable to a Jewish boy than hearing that he lives and eats with the pigs. That would have been totally unclean. And so he's using some extremes here to explain how bad this nightmare was for this kid. And so he finally comes to his senses and he says, "You know what? My father's servants live better than this. So here's my plan. I'm going to go home. I'm no longer going to ask to be a son, but if I could just be a servant in my father's house, my life will dramatically improve." And so he heads off home. I'm sure he's rehearsing his speech in his head of I'm sorry, can I just be a servant? I don't want to be a son anymore. I know I have dishonored you. But the father sees him while he's still a long way off. And the father takes off running. And what you need to know about Jewish men at that time is that would have been seen as indignant. They did not run like that. People came to them. And the father character in the story is God. And so what Jesus is exaggerating this point is the way that the Father loves us, the way he loves the one is an indignant, radical type of love. He runs, he embraces him. And before the son can even get out his apology, his speech, he's saying, "Get some gifts, let's dress him up, fire up the smoker, we're throwing a party." And they celebrate that the son has come home, something was lost, something is found, and they throw a party. But there's a tag at the end of this story. There's something a little extra at the end of the third story, and we meet another character in the story, the older brother. The older brother is out in the fields, and he hears the music going on, and so he comes to see what's going on, probably smells the cooking and all of that. And he gets there, and he finds out from the servants that his brother has returned home. And he is furious. He is big mad. He is not going into the party. He is staying outside I am This is not fair. I've been here this whole time. I'm the one that we should have a party for. I've been serving faithfully the whole time. And the father comes out and says, well, why are you upset? Your bro's back. Like, come party with us. And the brother's like, no, like, I've been here this whole time. And listen to what the father says. He's, son, you've been with me the whole time. Everything I have is yours. The other half of his inheritance has already been taken and blown, so that his inheritance, everything he has, is yours. But we had to celebrate. Your brother was dead, and now he's alive. And then I love what Jesus does here. He just stops the story. He doesn't tell us what happens. He doesn't tell us what the older brother decides. He just leaves it open-ended. We don't know if the older brother is like, you know what, that's right, we should be happy he's here, and he goes and joins the party, or if he stays outside and is like, I don't want anything to do with this. We don't know what he does. I'd love to know. But Jesus intentionally is targeting the story at the religious. And for those of us that have been in church for a while, this story is targeted at us, and we should listen up and answer this question: what would we do in that moment? What would our attitude be in that moment? Are we saying, you know what, you're right, and we're going and enjoying the party, or are we going to stay out and be mad about it? Because here's the thing, I can relate to the older brother a little bit. The older brother is in the right. He had served faithfully all those years. Like, it's a natural response for him to think, you know what, he's like, shouldn't he have to do like some sort of like repentance, like spend some time serving us before we sell, like get back in our good graces? But that's not how God's grace works. Who here has a sibling? Most people, few only childs. When you're growing up, maybe you still do it as an adult. If you still do it as an adult, please stop. But maybe when you're growing up and you saw your sibling get a present, what was your response? Was there a little bit of scorekeeping? A little bit like, ooh, I wonder what I'm gonna get in that moment. And now that I'm a parent, like, I know that we can't parent both of our kids the same way. They need very different things because they are very different ages, different people, all of that. But when I was like, before I was a parent, and especially growing up, there's a natural like comparison with siblings. There's a natural scorekeeping that happens. And I think older brother syndrome is very natural because it's logical. Like, he, in so many logical ways, was in the right. It is the way that we think in this world, but it is not kingdom thinking. It is not the way Jesus was teaching his followers to think. It was not a graceful form of thought. And so we have to deform from the way that our world thinks, that we naturally think, and get rid of what our core team has started calling older brother syndrome. So how do we deform from this older brother syndrome? Well, we need to figure out where it starts. Where does older brother syndrome start to form in us? Because I think it starts slowly, and it can look a lot like apathy, of just like not necessarily like having a one in your life. It can look a lot of different ways. But I think older brother syndrome is developed in the bleachers. I think older brother syndrome is developed when you're not in the game. Older brother syndrome is developed when you don't have a one in your life. When we have a one in our life, when we have someone that is lost, that is living far from Jesus, and we want to get them to Jesus, we want them to experience the kind of hope that we have experienced, our perspective changed. We start to think like the men who brought their friend to Jesus on a mat, and they carried him up on top of a roof, and they literally cut a hole in the roof just to get their friend to Jesus. We start to have that type of mindset. We start to think like Paul, who in one of his letters says, do not make it hard for the Gentiles to come to Christ. He's talking about eliminating barriers so that someone can experience Jesus. We start to think with that mindset. We want to eliminate those barriers. And I think the antidote to older brother syndrome is getting into the game. The antidote to having that apathy about the one is having a one yourself. And here's how our team defines a one. Your one is not a metaphor. It can't just be like an idea. Like, oh yeah, like I pray for the lost. The idea of a one is good. No, this has to be a real person. And for us, we define it like your one has to be someone that you are doing life with. It can't be someone that lives across the country. You see every once in a while and you maybe throw up a couple prayers for them. No, to have a one means someone that you are regularly doing life with. And when there are people in your life that you love and care about and would do anything for them to get to Jesus, older brother syndrome is nowhere in the conversation. And so now we've unpacked what a one is, what your one is. Now I want to unpack for you the first part of that statement I shared with you earlier, that I believe we are all called, equipped, and positioned all for your one. And if I can just share this, these are lessons. These are the 3 lessons that our family has really been learning this year as we've moved to a new area, a new city, a new state for us as a family, and have just lived as missionaries for 7 months. And we've got to rub shoulders with a lot of people that don't yet know Jesus. And we have been encouraged by all of these things. And so I hope this is an encouragement to you today. The first is that we are called. We are called with purpose. Our mission is pretty clear. When you read Luke 15, it's pretty clear what the heart of Jesus looked like, that his heart was disproportionately for the one. I would say that we're not just called, but we are commanded to go after the one. The Great Commission, or Jesus' mission for the church before he went back to heaven, was this. He said, in Matthew 28, Jesus came and told his disciples, I have been given all authority on heaven and on earth. Therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you. And be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. It is our duty. We are called as people that follow Jesus to share Jesus with others, to find a one, to do life with people that don't yet know Jesus so that they can experience that hope. And you guys are a part of a great church that every week you say this, love God, love people, and that is a mission of this church that you get to belong to. You get to be a part of bringing hope to people that live in Cape Coral and Southwest Florida, because our world needs hope. I think our world may need hope now more than it ever has. So we've been called, we've also been equipped, and equipped with power. And the story we talked about, that the lost son, the prodigal son, when he came home, he receives some gifts. Like he gets back, and verse 22, and I've skipped over this for a lot of years, but verse 22 says this, and this is after he's come home, the father's embraced him. But the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. When he gets home, he is greeted with gifts. And there is some really important symbolism that happens. When we are saved, when we meet Jesus, every time we baptize someone in that baptistry, we baptize them for 2 things, for the forgiveness of sins and the gift of the Spirit. We receive the gift of the Spirit. And if I can be honest with you, what has stopped me for many, many years of not sharing Jesus with people is I didn't feel like I was equipped, or I maybe thought there was someone that would be better at it. And I wanted to kind of sit in the background and like play my little part over here, but not be actually the one that was getting to share Jesus with someone. We are all equipped, and it's not on our own power. And so if you feel like, I'm not sure I'm the one to do this, that's not a completely wrong feeling. It's the Spirit working through you that will give you the power to do this. And it's not, don't have the power to save anyone. It's Jesus that does the saving, and you're invited in to step into the work that he is already doing. About 10 years ago now, I was serving at a church in Phoenix, Arizona, and I had an absolute privilege of baptizing my friend Brooke, and I got to walk with her as she was discovering Jesus, and it was just such a privilege to be a part of that journey. But do you know when she really started asking questions, when she started this faith journey, when she started exploring? I was actually on vacation. I was actually here in Cape Coral visiting my family for Christmas, and God started to stir something up in her. She started to ask questions. She started to explore. And then by the time I met her, she was already on that journey. And here's my encouragement to you. You do not have the power to save anyone, so go ahead and take that pressure off yourself in this conversation. What you have the invitation to do is to step into what God is already doing. your coworkers, your neighbors, you have no idea what God might already be doing in their lives. And your invitation is not to hit a home run every time. It's just to get to be a part of this journey. It's just to be an inviter to them. It's just to get to know them and build that relationship where you can have those conversations. So we have been called, we have been equipped, and we have been positioned. I believe that everyone in here has been positioned for impact. The people that God has around you, your coworkers, your neighbors, are not an accident. He has positioned you specifically there with that group of people, with your abilities and talents for a reason. A question I'd ask everyone is just simply, what do you love to do? Like, what do you love to spend your time doing? Because I think God could use that thing to help you reach people for him. Here's why I say that. You know where I've had a lot of conversations, maybe some of the most conversations with guys recently, is on a golf course. Like guys that I've been building a relationship with, and some of you are like, oh, I can get some golf out of this? Now I'm listening. It's guys that I've been building a relationship with, I'm like, hey, let's go golfing. And we have time for good conversations. And I've had so many really good Jesus conversations, just chasing our balls all over the place because none of us are any good. I got to share the gospel with a friend of mine that I had just spent several months building a relationship with. And I texted him one night and said, hey, I'm hanging some drywall at the church. You want to come meet me? Because he was very skilled. He can do that things a lot better than me. And so I was kind of banking on him coming so that the drywall wouldn't look like garbage. He's like, sure, I'll come help you. And we hung out and we hung drywall. And about partway through like hanging this piece, we literally had a piece over our heads. He's like, all right, tell me about Jesus. And that was after just building this relationship. There was nothing holy about hanging that drywall, but we started doing life together. And I asked him not just how I could help him, but how he could help me. I've met quite a few people at coffee shops just because I love to sit in a coffee shop and drink good coffee. And that's one of the things God has wired me up to do. And so that invitation to others of, hey, I'm getting coffee on Tuesday. Want to join me at Perk or one of my favorite coffee shops? God has wired you up to live in a very unique and beautiful way that you might reach the ones around you. You are positioned for impact. And let me put a little bit of wheels on this. Let me share a little bit of how. We've talked about this concept and this idea that you have been called, you've been equipped, you've been positioned right where you're at. All you need to do to be able to share Jesus is answer this one question. What's your before and after? What is your before Jesus story? And how has he changed your life since? And if you can share that with someone, you are fully equipped to share Jesus with someone. Most of my time sharing Jesus with people has simply been sharing things about what Jesus has meant to me as a dad. Like how without the patience, without the way he's worked in me, I don't think I could be a very good dad. I think my wife and I have a great marriage, but without Jesus' work in our hearts, our marriage is in trouble. And I can share those stories with people, those real life about how he has brought hope to our family, how he has changed everything. And friends, that is so attractive to the one. And so maybe you're sitting here and you're thinking, I don't even have a one. I don't even know who I would start with. I dare you to pray this dangerous prayer this week and just say, God, show me someone. Show me someone that I can start to build a relationship. Show me someone that I can start to share your hope and your love with. And I promise you, he will show up and he will. Because friends, it is time to get into the game. You have been called, you've been equipped, you have been positioned right here in Cape Coral, Florida, so that the people in your life, the notorious sinners, the tax collectors, or just the everyday people that work in your office might come to know Jesus. Because I promise you, they're looking for hope. I promise you, they're looking for home and meaningful community. I promise they're looking for purpose in their lives. And you have the answer. You know Jesus. You have the key to unlock that in their lives. And so the question for you today is, will you step into what God is already doing in their lives? Will you step into sharing with them what it looks like to have a meaningful relationship with their Savior? Because friends, your friends need you. The city needs a church that loves lost people in Cape Coral, Florida. Would you pray with me? God, we thank you for Jesus. Thank you that he came down to earth. He experienced hurt and pain like we experience. And thank you ultimately that he died on a cross to pay the price for our sins. Thank you for the hope that we experience now because of him. God, I pray this week that you would just help us find one step we can take into sharing that love with our community. Would you show us someone around us that's living far from you, that needs that hope? Would you show us how we can build a better relationship with those around us that we already know that we need to build that relationship with? God, would you just lead us into this incredible journey with you? And I'm so thankful for what Jesus said at the end of the Great Commission, that he will be with us always. Thank you that you are with us every step of the way and for the ways that you're already working. God, we pray that your kingdom come here in Cape Coral as it is in heaven. Would you use all of us to be a part of your kingdom work this week? It's in Jesus' holy name we pray.